Today's webinar is about key considerations when planning or reviewing your TPM journey. Presenting the session today is Ross Kennedy. Ross is the president and founder of CTPM, a team of business improvement coaches. Ross is recognized as Australasia's leading authority on total productive maintenance and CTPM's Australasian TPM lean approach to operational excellence. So let's get started with today's session, and I'll now pass you over to Ross.
Good morning, everyone. For those that it is morning, and I guess for our New Zealand colleagues, it's afternoon. But, yes, thank you for attending our webinar today, for our first one this year. And we thought it appropriate after, I guess, dealing with a number of clients in recent times who have approached us about reinvigorating their TPM journey, where they've tried it and it sort of hasn't sustained, and it's, they want to reinvigorate and get it right, and which then prompted me to think about, well, maybe this webinar might be of help for those who either are planning to go and introduce TPM to get the equipment part of your lean journey working perfectly, or to get your equipment to work perfectly, to stop the frustrations in the workplace from equipment not always doing exactly what it should do, or those who are on the journey but would like just to review and see, well, have we got all the foundations covered? Have we got all the bases covered, or are we leaving ourselves exposed where we could get into challenges that could make it hard to sustain our TPM efforts? So I thought, with that in mind, I thought I'd just cover very briefly the overview of the what are the activities and focus of Australasian TPM and lean, the importance of understanding the different approaches to improving OEE improvement, because that's a critical part of TPM. Then our latest learnings about what sites have been, where we've come across sites that have been successful and sites that have struggled, and it comes back to the critical parts of a continuous improvement strategy. Then we'll get into the 10 ingredients that we believe are imperative to get right for, and we call it Australasian TPM. It's the TPM that's going to work in an Australasian workplace environment, where our culture is quite different from, for example, the Japanese, and understanding the intent of what those 10 ingredients are all about. So we'll start with just this slide. Some of you may have seen this in previous webinars. It's saying that the whole lean and TPM journey is about, yes, reinforcing your company values, respect for people, for example, then getting the thinking right. Now, reliability through TPM is a critical part of the lean and TPM. TPM was developed to allow lean, or the Toyota production system, to work. So it's getting the thinking right, and engagement and alignment of your people is also a critical part of both TPM and lean, especially TPM. So there's a lot of methods out there that apply to either TPM activities or to lean, and then we have a range of tools, and we all, I think, familiar with the tools of A3 summary sheets, checklists, compliance audit sheets, etc. There's many tools we have. And finally, and probably most importantly, the activities and focus. This is really, what activities do we need to do? Are they cross-functional area-based project events? And where do we focus? Do we focus on production support, value streams, or people development? And obviously, TPM is a production-driven improvement initiative, and therefore we start with the production area, and then we move to the support areas like maintenance, etc. So they're the activities, and what we've done is we've created our CTPM hamburger, if you like, of those activities, and we've identified 10 key activities which are required for the success of TPM. And if you look at the hamburger, the way we structure it now is that you obviously safety and quality are the umbrella of everything we do. However, until we get everything under the umbrella working perfectly, we'll never get perfect safety or perfect quality. We've also got that line of problem-solving, visual workplace, and prevention at source. Now, the purpose behind that is they are the skills we need to develop in our frontline people to be successful. Toyota learned very early in the journey that they could not compete with the Americans in the car industry if they relied on having to develop what the Americans had were industrial engineers running around telling everyone what to do. They also picked up on the learnings from Dr. Deming, saying it's all about prevention at source and finding problems at the earliest possible time and recognizing the tyranny of time. The longer the time frame from finding a problem to actually, the longer the time frame from a problem occurring to you finding it, the harder it is to get to the root cause. So it's all about developing the frontline people who are prepared to pull the cord, as they say, if something is not right, and everyone swarms and addresses it. So problem solving, visual workplace, and prevention at source of the skill set. We use cross-functional and area-based teams on the journey, and then our main activities from a TPM perspective is focused equipment and process improvement to get the understand all our losses, and then it's working on creating the visual workplace and getting prevention at source going through operator equipment management. These are supported by production support activities. You've got your value streams to take out all the waste, and then obviously people and leadership development is absolutely critical. So that's the hamburger model. We also learned that when we're approaching OEE improvement, there's two ways to address it. You have your Pareto chart. You either look at the top three, and OEE data capture systems are very good at that, where they'll give you information and highlight, for example, the top three issues or losses that are occurring on your line. And using a cross-functional team, so you get the operations, the maintenance, the quality, technical, etc., people involved to start working on those losses is very important as what we do initially. And often we try to come up with solutions that everyone are happy to implement. The technical, the spring keeps breaking on the machine, put a bigger spring in, it doesn't break anymore, we're all happy. However, on the other side is the inductive, and this is the real core key part of TPM to make it successful. It's all about finding problems at the earliest possible time, or everything that's not right, like equipment defects. And it's, I guess you can explain it as tackling the Pareto chart from the tail and addressing all the tiny little things that aren't right. And by doing that, what you end up doing is making it easier to address the big things, because you take the noise out of them. So you start, sort of shrinking the big ones. But the right hand is very important. And most sites we've come across have seen that when you go and do initially an analysis of OE losses, you'll find half of them are probably technical related, the other half are probably people development related. And if you don't do both, you won't get to the full potential of your OE improvements. So the learning is we need to address losses from both ends of the Pareto. So the other thing to share with you is our learning of working with sites and then coming across sites that go down the journey very well and make good progress, and other sites that just struggle. People don't turn up for meetings, events or activities get deferred, stopped at last, short term. For example, regular claim for inspections don't occur at the regular time, and then maintenance aren't available, and then people get frustrated because maintenance aren't turning up, and all these sort of things. So we sort of looked at this, and what we concluded was that there's three critical parts to continuous improvement. There's our, I guess, traditional proactive improvement, which is what TPM fits into, which is about taking us from a current level of performance and taking us up to a much higher level of performance, to what we call our improvement vision, which would be some measurable new level of performance and a time frame to get there, which we'd aim to get to world class. So, absolute, get rid of all the losses out of our equipment and find all our problems at the earliest possible time, and reduce our maintenance costs by half by fixing up bent grease lines instead of failed bearings, so to speak. But what we've also discovered is that a critical part of running a business is also reactive improvement, which is day-to-day stuff. When things don't meet expectation, being able to jump on them very quickly get back to where you should be in performance, and most importantly, stop it from happening again. And we see some sites do that very well. Other sites do it very poorly, and they don't seem to put much focus on it. And the end result is, again, people are running around trying to address issues that keep reoccurring, and they don't have time to do the proactive improvement. And finally, the other thing is a stable production plan. We go to some sites where, yes, we have the plan for the week. Yes, we are going to do our TPM activities or our clean for inspections. Then all of a sudden, oh no, there's some urgent order come in, or oh, we haven't got the right raw material, or something's happened. The production plan gets changed, and all of a sudden the time for the clean for inspection has to be moved, and then maintenance unavailable. So having a stable production plan was also another key part of the whole thing. And I guess to summarize that, what we find is the best practice sites are the ones who, when they start their journey, they tackle, make sure they have got effective daily management in place, get their reactive improvement right, put the effort into stabilising the production plan through flow logic, and then start working on the proactive improvement. Sadly, a lot of organisations do it where they don't worry too much about daily management. They don't put the effort into stabilising the production plan, and wonder why, after 5 years, they haven't got very far, because everyone keeps getting distracted and haven't got time for doing all the proactive improvement. So that led us on to developing what we call our 10 integrated ingredients of Australasian TPM. And what we found is that it's like a wheel going through your factory or your site. You start in your piled areas or bottleneck areas, and then you roll it through. Now, it's broken up to 4 main parts. Preparation to free up production time, because if you don't free up production time, you can't stop the line to do your TPM activities. You need to then free up maintenance time. If you don't free up maintenance time, they don't have time to go and fix up the defects. They're too busy doing their repair work and their normal activities. So we've got to free up their time. And then we need to get the capability of our people, of the operators, to be able to do TPM activities. And first of all, we need to get the basics right of, let's get the equipment properly center lined and operating properly, and let's get the discipline within the production area-based team so that they know to put things back where they should. So you get the discipline through work area management or 5S. Then when you start tackling something a lot more complex like the equipment, you know the operators know about the equipment, how to run it, and they know how to follow a disciplined approach. Then we start letting them get into clean for inspections, etc. You go and stuff up a sensor with the wrong cleaning fluid while you're doing a clean for inspection, you can have dire consequences. As opposed to work area management, you put the tool back in the wrong slot, or you don't put the tool back. Yes, it doesn't really stuff up production, it just wastes a bit of time. So that's why we have to get the production capability right before we dive into the TPM. Now, that model is for existing equipment. Right? So if we go back, the limitations of that model is if you're going to bring in new equipment, or you need to develop your support department so they can go out and train and develop your operators on frontline quality, for example, we need to have these other 2 support activities going on. So our wheel does not cover that, but it does cover the core activities of getting TPM to work with existing equipment. So what are these 4 areas that we have to work on? Well, our first one is the preparation, the first one, effective daily management. And we say here at least 5 of the 7 elements. Reduce time lost chasing up problems, incidents that keep occurring, so as free up time. So what are these 7 elements? Well, it's about supportive organisation structure, effective frontline leaders, appropriate measures, structured daily review meetings, visual information centres. They're the first 5. We've got to get those right. The last 2 are really nice to have, and we want to develop that, but that might come later. So the first 2, supportive organisation structure. What Toyota learned, and many companies, Procter & Gamble's, Simplots, and whatever we've worked with have learned, that if the structure's not right, in other words, you can't develop your operators if they haven't got proper leadership, and that's a frontline leader. And frontline leaders are your wages leaders who can work the equipment when necessary to train and develop your people, not run the equipment all the time. And you want them to develop the skills of your operators. So for them to do that, they can't have too many operators. And what Toyota found was 7 was about the maximum. So a team of 8, you can get a very, very effective team of the frontline leader and up to 7 reports. So if your organization structure is not right, you can't develop your frontline leaders into so that they can help the operators identify problems at the earliest possible time so you can address this tyranny of time issue with quality and TPM. So that's probably the really important thing to get right, and we find that is often a hindrance in a lot of organisations. Then obviously having the appropriate measures linked to your site's key success factors for operations, and then having structured daily review meetings. And the purpose of a structured daily review meeting should be to develop your frontline leaders, not just find out how the place went. And are we addressing the problem? So you have different tiers of meetings. You should have your starter shift meeting, which people refer to as tier 1. Then you have your supervisors meeting or the first level salary person's meeting with their frontline leaders. And that's the critical one. That's the one that is there so that we can use it to develop each frontline leader. So each frontline leader reports on how their area's gone, and the role of the meetings, have you got enough support to make sure you have a good day? Then obviously it moves up to the next level for the manager, etc. But getting all that right is absolutely critical, so that it's not only addressing problems to fix up what's gone wrong, but actually addressing what needs to be done to stop problems from happening again. So very important to get that part of it right. Then the second part is stabilise the production plan. Reduce day-to-day firefighting for regular cleans for inspection. So what we're trying to do there is this idea of flow logic as opposed to batch logic. And what we try to do is move variation from production to the warehouse for the 6% of the SKUs that make up 50% of your total volume. And what we found in the work by Ian Glenday and the Glenday sieve is typically in a manufacturing plant, 6% of what you make or your products, your SKUs, probably make up about 50% of the volume. And if you can stabilize that 50%, which typically has the least variability in it, with a fixed schedule, fixed volume, or fixed time schedule, fixed sequence, fixed volume, or fixed time, ideally fixed time, you'll get stability. So you can then fit into your production plan that a certain, during that 50% of the time, so 2 days a week, you can always have a regular clean for inspection to support what you're doing. So it's all about identifying the dominant or green products and developing a different planning method using flow logic. Final point, OE improvement, improve production capacity, produce more in less time. So this is where we get cross-functional teams together to build relationships up between production and maintenance and management and support staff. And we go out and we do detailed OE analysis to look at and improve the OE to free up time. And hopefully we're able to improve OE performance by at least 10%, hopefully 20% in a lot of cases, depending on where you're starting from. And then using some of that time, allocating 5% of that time towards production area-based team improvement activity for work area management and operator equipment management. So in other words, 5% is 2 hours a week. So if you can lift your OE up 10%, you get 5% for your TPM, production planning, get an extra 5% increase in capacity. Then with the teams doing the work, production area-based teams going down the TPM path, you'll increase your performance even better. So the next one is maintenance capability. So the first one is maintenance time lost. We want to reduce that by at least 10%. We've got to free up maintenance time, reduce frustrations, and enhance their capability to respond to small problems and issues identified by your operators. What we've found, and this is the time lost analysis tool we use, in a typical maintenance operation in Australia and New Zealand, if we go and survey the maintenance people and ask them what happened in the typical, say, a typical week, like last week, did they ever have any of these issues thrown at them where they wasted time because, you know, not being given clear explanation of what's required, or not being clear explanation of what's happened, or tools not being immediately available? You end up with something like about 35. That's taken from one of our clients some time back. But we typically find 30 to 35 is the most common answer we get from that. Now, if we can get it down to 5 or 10%, you've got yourself something in the order of 20, 25% more time, more resources in maintenance, and you've got rid of a lot of frustrations for your maintenance people. So that's why we focus on time lost initially, so we can free up maintenance time. So then when they've got to go and fix up defects, they've actually got the time to do it. If we don't do this, all you're doing is putting extra load on maintenance, and they will often kick back. The other part of maintenance capability is obviously what we've learned is maintenance people do not like having experts come in and tell them they're no good, or they're not going that well, or they're not the best practice. What we've found is by getting them a bit of education through an awareness training and getting them to do a self-assessment of what we use the term the 10 elements of maintenance excellence. So explain to them what is best practice in those 10 elements, and then get them to evaluate where they're up to. What you find is you get a lot of buy-in to saying, oh, maybe we can do things better. Maybe we should get some improvement activity going to, again, enhance our capability as maintenance people. So the 10 elements, I'll just put up very quickly. That's a 10-element model we use for maintenance excellence. And that's certainly found to be very, very helpful. Moving on, production capability. This is the one that people often forget about, is that it's having competently trained operators with base skills for their area. And what we mean by that is if you've got a team of, say, 7 operators with a frontline leader, and there's 7 workstations, obviously, on the line or in the area, you want your operators to be able to cover, ideally, everyone's spot so they can rotate around. That's good RH and health type reasons, and also cover for each other when one or another is either away doing training or attending an improvement team meeting, etc. So developing the competency skills is a great way to go and look at the equipment in very detailed eyes, using maintenance and technical support and senior operators, and looking at just what are the center line settings for every product you put through. Are we following those center line settings? If not, why are we not? If there's some weakness in the equipment, let's fix up the equipment and get the plant operating properly, and then use that as a foundation for the frontline leader to go and competency train all the operators up to this new level. And we find doing that, one, improves often the performance of the addresses a lot of speed loss, etc., and gives you a very good foundation for going forward. Then you move into what we call production area-based team work area management, which was spoken about. Work area management is an enhanced version of 5S. It's designed to cover where you've got multi-shift situations and where you're trying to get everyone engaged, everyone involved, and ownership to their work area. So we use focus points to help us do that as well. And then that leads us into operator equipment management, which is the core of TPM. So it's a clean for inspection, which involves 3 steps. You've got your training for inspection, and then you've got your managed by inspection. So ultimately develop operators to manage their workplace to achieve perfect equipment performance with no safety, quality, and equipment problems. And that means monitoring their performance on an hourly basis and reviewing their performance every week when they do a claim for inspection, and reflect back on saying, are all the inspections we're doing, all the claim for inspections, etc., and our maintenance colleagues, are we doing everything to stop any possible delay or issue we had during the week? If not, what needs to be changed, enhanced, and taking real ownership of the whole thing. That's the details of what operator equipment management is all about. You'll notice, claim for inspection is the first stage training for inspections the second stage. And what we've done is combined the last 3 into managed by inspection. So the 2 and the stage 3 and 4, we just, because often when we've implemented that, you do it sort of together. So that's where we come up with the wheel. So just as a summary, there's the 10 integrated activities, and we've put sort of a bit of a timeline on this just to show you that yes, we start off with getting daily management, stable production plan, and getting OEE improvement first. And you really want to use the OEE improvement to build a relationship up between the maintenance and the operators, and also to get maintenance to realise the importance of being involved in improvement. Then we get the maintenance people to get involved in improvement by looking at the time lost and maintenance excellence. And then once we've got some time freed up, both for maintenance and from the OEE improvement, we can get into production and get production to develop the skills of the operators and start working out, sorting out their work area with their work area management or 5S. And again, if you jump into work area management without freeing up time of maintenance, you start getting kickback from maintenance because it's extra work. Then we can move into the core TPM activities of clean for inspection, train for inspection, and managed by inspection. But again, you'll notice the time frame, typical clean for inspections, 3 steps. It's going to take you 12 months at least, depending on the nature of your plant, may even take you longer. The second part, training for inspection, again, it's going to take another 12 months to do that. And again, getting the managed by inspection, minimum 12 months. So the journey can take something like 5 years. And it's really managing those ingredients, recognizing some can be done in parallel and some you've got to make sure you've got the foundation before you go forward. So let's give you a bit of an insight to make you reflect on how well your current TPM journey is progressing and whether you've got all the bases covered, or whether there's something you've missed and maybe you need to go back and have a go at. Or if you're going to start on the journey, there's a very logical way to go forward. Now, we've got heaps of training material, support material available for our members. You can purchase, or we can come along and help you and facilitate your teams using the different material. Also, if you're in New South Wales, support can be funded, a fair bit of it can be funded, 60 to 90%, from the Smart Skills program as you develop your people and they get recognition through a Cert 3 or units from a Cert 3 or Cert 4. Okay, with that in mind, probably a couple of minutes over, but hopefully it's been of some value, and we wish you all the very best on your journey, improvement journeys for 2020. And if you have any questions, more than happy to take them now, or you can contact me anytime, either by phone or email. And we always love to hear from people heading down the improvement journey. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ross. That was a great presentation. So as Ross said, if you have any questions, please feel free to press the raise your hand button now, or type your question in the control panel box provided, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to that Ross will be happy to respond to. And while we wait for any questions, I just wanted to remind you that a link to the recording of today's webinar will be provided in a follow-up email to you later today. So please feel free to share it with your colleagues. Let's have a look. We did get a comment, Ross, from Gilbert, just saying that it wasn't a question about endorsement of what Ross is preaching, that leadership need to understand this totally to make the organisation successful. And it's something which he is continually improving at Coopers.
Yeah. Thanks, Gilbert. Appreciate the comment. I agree. This is a message we really need to get across to leadership, so they understand what is involved in the journey. It's not just simply, oh, TPM, let's get the operators to go and clean the machines and make them look pretty. There's a lot more to it than that, because what you're trying to do is to stabilise component life and pick up on the little problems at the earliest possible time, so the maintenance people can get in there quickly and fix them, and lift the performance of the plant and substantially reduce your maintenance materials costs, because you're not spending money on bearings when you're fixing up, all you need to do is fix up a bent grease line, so to speak.
Okay. That doesn't seem like we have any further questions, so I think we'll wrap it up here. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact Ross at any time after today's session. He'll be happy to answer them. And on behalf of everyone at CTPM, thank you for attending our first session for the year, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.